People are not nice to each other, and it can affect you, but it didn't affect me at the time. It got to me a lot longer after, when I had time to think about it.
When you're in active service, you're constantly looking. If you don't look, you probably end up getting killed. You know, so a sniper will shoot you, or you'll stand on an IED, or you'll come unstuck.
Eventually, I was discharged, but then quite soon after, I experienced symptoms of PTSD.
I was homeless for a period of time, and I lived off handouts in a hostel.
When you get down there, and we've seen with the amount of suicides that there is, they haven't been caught in time because there's not enough out there.
You can't go through anything that is so life-changing without it affecting you, without it a price to be paid, basically.
Well, it was somewhat my ambition was either become a fireman or the soldier. So back then, there was a lot of boys from my neighbourhood joining the British Army, so I followed along their footsteps, and 2007, that's when I enlisted.
You wouldn't normally associate the son of a vicar going into the army, especially something like the infantry, but what happened was my mum went to, being a vicar's wife, went to a jumble sale, as you do as a vicar's wife, and then bought this mega bumper box of Commando comics back home for young Matt. And I read each one of them from cover to cover, decided that the Cubs and the Scouts were no longer for me, and I joined the Army Cadets.
So I joined the Air Force in 1986 and served for 14 years before being medically discharged. Served around the various bases in the UK, crossing Germany, Falklands, and lots of other detachments that we used to go and deploy on short notice.
My father was in the RAF, travelled around the world with him, did my apprenticeship as a chemical engineer and decided, yeah, I want to do some bit more, get out of my small town, so joined the army.
I started off through the TA. I was only supposed to do a year, but as soon as I joined the battalion, I signed over my life. Ended up doing 7 years.
It was a good move for me, a really good move for me, but it kind of restricted me in some ways, because when you're in the army at 17-year-old and nearly everybody else in your troop is 25 to 30, you kind of like, you grow up very fast and you miss out on that little bit of youth.
Before I joined up, without going into it all and all my history, it was like I had experienced domestic abuse and domestic violence through my younger years and growing up. So joining the forces was a way of getting out of that environment for me. I'd lived rough and I was homeless, so I joined the forces. And when I joined the forces, I knew that at that point that I was gay, and I had this image that I would join the army and that I could just be me. It would be an environment where I could go away, I could enjoy life like I hadn't enjoyed it before, and I could be that gay woman that I thought that I would be.
That's all I known since being a teenager, becoming 30. That's all I know in army life.
I think joining the army changes everybody. I think we're trained to be on high alert.
In a war zone, it's not just black and white. There's so many different aspects to it. So in a lot of respects, it was really interesting, really dangerous, and really sort of, upsetting after. Coming home was sort of wow, what are they doing?
I used to have a recurring thought, why are these people, they look like me, they talk like me, or talk similar to me, but they're trying to kill me. That was a recurring thought all the time. I think that was the point when, kind of, because it was constant 24/7. It wasn't a case of like, well, you're going to go out today and it might rain or it might be sunny. It was going to rain every day.
I had a serious number of accidents through my career. The major one was blown off a roof in Afghanistan with an RPG. I did the typical Scott Robertson thing, just got up, dusted myself off and cracked on. Didn't realise that I'd really hurt myself till I got home.
Early 80s, so about 82, that was when I was in Ireland, so I've done a bit of work about an incident where they managed to put an IED in a drain in the end, just before we got into the SF basin, and blew up the Land Rover that was in front of us. But we were in a pig, which is an armoured car, and we were covered in paint and bricks and bits and thrown to us and all the rest of it. So that was fairly early on in my career.
I was marched into this office and I was asked if I was gay, because if I was gay I was told that I was going to be out, because it was against regulations. So I lied and I said that I wasn't. So it was either comply or go back to the environment that I really never ever wanted to go back to. So for that point on, it was hiding who I really was again and getting on with the job that I'd signed up for.
I came back to Britain, I was homeless, and I couldn't find the job centre. Weren't particularly helpful. I couldn't open a bank account because I didn't have a valid photo ID, one that they would accept, so I couldn't open a bank account. I wasn't getting any help from anybody. I ended up living in my car.
In my day, if you kind of like said, I don't feel well, or I think I've got some kind of psychological problem, you just get clipped around the lug and told to go and put your head together, son. And that was it. It's so kind of like when you come out, I knew when I came out that I had an issue because I didn't know what it was, but I was suffering from what I know now to be hypervigilance.
And all this time, I'm getting these sort of more vivid and more horrendous nightmares, and I'm running around with a rifle, and then I'm finding out I haven't got a rifle, and I'm seeing friends who are no longer with us, you know, and I might be sleeping and I can hear babies crying and things like that. That I have memories from Bosnia. So all these things have started to come back.
Eventually I was discharged. I got out on family grounds because I had my children. I was sent to London to the Gulf Veterans Medical Assessment Programme, and I was assessed down there at St Thomas's, where I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and I spent the best part of, I don't know, between 10 and 14 years in the mental health system, and at one point I had really deteriorated, and my daughter was my carer really, but not only was she my carer, but she was my son as well, so she was at a very young age looking after both of us, and that still sits wrong with me, you know. It's that should never happened at all.
Armed Forces Day in Lincoln. I happened to be walking past the NHS mental health tent, and I must have stood for about 15-20 minutes looking at it before I actually took a step forward. And the lady that was running it just looked at me and asked me if I was alright, and that was it. I broke down.
What we have in abundance here is a set of people with different social skills. So I might not function with one person, but I know I've got a team of people in here who can go and talk to that person and bring out the best on them. And once they start getting in there and start getting a bit of banter, the guard comes down and they become themselves again.
It's a good support line, especially for someone who's come out or who's already been out. just staying at home. Because that's all it takes, innit? For like veterans, especially veterans, like they need someone to talk to, like someone who can relate, and that's when you get the whole story out of them. Good laugh, a cup of tea, coffee, and that's when everything starts coming out, like what problems they got and all.
I don't want to be trapped. I want to have a life, you know. I want to have adventures. This is what I am. I'm not going to be this bloke in a wheelchair sitting at home, you know, watching soaps or whatever other people do.
If by me allowing a little bit of appropriate share about my experience helps them to be them, or encourages them to access support, then that's a good day's work.
This one's a day on the beach, and the idea again is kind of dealing with things that trigger us in a strange way, because obviously in the military we're all triggered by images or experiences. I didn't start doing any kind of artwork until 2016. By then I'd had 3 operations on my back, 1 on my knee, mesh repair. The last operation where they'd fused 3 of my discs together resulted in a load of nerve damage. And I'd had a period of about 10 years on morphine, oromorph, stuff like that. And I had to come off all of those drugs to help before they put in an implant in my back to deal with the nerve damage. Once I left the army, I worked a little bit in education doing adult learner support, and that led to me being an information and guidance worker, and I worked at the prison down in Northallerton. And what we used to do there is try and get the guys on to basically distraction therapy to help them come off the drugs, to help them come off alcohol, to help them go and stuff like that. So when it was my turn to come off them, I took my own advice basically, and I joined a little art group in Coburn, and that led me to apply to go to Middlesbrough University in 2018, and I've just finished my BA this year. So it's a weird journey I've been on, I suppose. I remember taking my children to a bonfire in Darlington, and it was some of the way the flames and the smoke were coming off. What they did on the Sir Galahad, they used helicopters to blow all the flames and the smoke to one side to allow the people to get off the other side, basically. And it was just the way that all the smoke and the flames were drifting across kind of reminded me of that. So that's why I painted that one.
I didn't even know, so like, I had talent for wood. It's kind of hidden talent.
It's very, very therapeutic to actually build something or carve something that is unique. Not another one in the world. It doesn't have to look brilliant, but you've done it. And when I took up carving, I found that once I started, hours would pass without me realising. And I'd just be sitting there with this sharp implement and a bit of wood and just chiseling away, trying to get the bit of wood to what I can see in my mind. I get it close, don't get it perfect, but
anything you do with your hands, whether it's working with woodwork, working with metal, writing, anything that's kind of kinesthetic, it allows your brain to take over, and automatically you're focusing on that part and not on other bits. Now, lots of military people are very kinesthetic. For everything you do is with our hands, you know, from weapons to the equipment we work on to the various roles. So we're used to doing that bit. And what the Army does teach you as well is you overcome whatever issues. We're not risk averse, we're not scared of trying new things. So that's another thing with being ex-military. You just have a go at anything, which is lovely.
Recognise it for something which it isn't. So I immediately recognise that as a parachute. I'll be walking the dog, or I'll be walking on the streets, and I'll see something, and I'll just hone in on that form, and instantaneously, spontaneously, I get this image, and the image turns into an inspiration, and then the inspiration and the image turn into a piece of sculpture or an installation. It's just as basic as that, really. These are made from resin. And I had to get I might see things that I recognise, but my subconscious recognises things that I don't see. And it to stop me, it's protecting me, I think. It's protecting me from danger, because it still thinks I'm in a combat zone. It still thinks my life's under threat. And when it sees it, I think it changes the image from being a threatening image to an image of creative.
When we first met, he wasn't using a wheelchair. He now is a full-time wheelchair user. And there's a lot of challenges come with that. I think people tend to see a wheelchair a lot of the time and think that is the problem and that's it. Still, even with the medical profession, they don't understand the complexities between the mental side of the injuries and sort of the physical side linked as one thing.
I was on sticks for a while, and I was in the self-denial going, yeah, I don't want to be in a wheelchair, and you know, I still want to go in. I was still on the view, I could still deploy and go to Afghanistan.
There's a lot of, you're just there as a carer, especially for myself. That can be sort of a big frustration when you're there, because people never know where to place you as, are you a partner, are you a carer?
I had a collapsed at Duxford and we were there helping out. So he got my wheelchair and I went, oh, okay. And then tried a couple of wheelchairs and I realised I was having a better quality of life, I wasn't in so much pain. And then I found wheelchair sports, so the rugby, I'm doing archery as well. But the rugby's just been great, looking to set my own team up here to get more veterans involved. And yeah, now I'm competing for Ireland internationally now.
I mean, I've always been creative. I studied 2 art degrees back in long time ago land. Fell upon clay a couple of years back now. And for me, being able to physically make something and see a progression is a huge part of just, keeping something there. Having an end game that I can focus on and sort of go, well, I made that, I did that. And even if it doesn't look like the best, it's still something you've made. We are a very atypical family, and that's us. We're not there to entertain anyone else. We know our own strategies, and we know at the end of the day we have our little bungalow, our little safe space, and that's just what keeps us going.
I was speaking to my sister on my way home, actually, from one of the sessions at Phoenix House, and I told her, you know, and that was a kind of a big moment, sort of coming out that I've got PTSD, and she was, do you know what, I never even expected you to join the army. That's not what I thought you would do. I thought you, to be all honest, would have been on a stage or acting or doing something like that. I thought, don't be so stupid. I got home, I was on Facebook, and I was just scratching my head, scrolling through the stuff, and I saw this thing. It said Bravo 22 Company Theatre Project, Newcastle upon Tyne. Oh, and then bing, what my sister had said, you know. I thought, yeah, why not? And I've discovered about myself that I can do things, you know, that I didn't think I could do, and that I've found a love for words, whether they be words that someone else has written, whether they be words that I've written, whether somebody else is speaking them, whether I'm speaking words that somebody else has written or somebody's speaking words that I've written. Words, I love words. Whenever I'm talking about Bravo to people, I always say it really is the best thing that I almost never did. Whether that makes grammatical sense or not, I don't know, but it's the way the only way I can think about it. It's the best thing I almost never did, because it could have gone either way.
One of the most annoying things with veterans is that they live off pot noodles, off takeaway food. It really is a fascinating subject to start reading and look at the links between foods and what you eat and how you feel. If I have somebody in and I teach them how to make a spaghetti bolognese for whatever reason, and then they go home, they can go and replicate that meal at home and perhaps cook a meal for their family, which could be the first time that they've cooked a meal ever for their family, and it'll just really just give them that lift and build up their confidence.
It doesn't take a day or 2 days or a month to be able to work through stuff. Sometimes it takes a long time, and civvy services that are out there are not appropriate for that type of work. I trained as a person-centred therapist, but I'm not a person-centred. I'm kind of out the box, and I'll go for walk and talks. When people are in a really good place, we'll go kayaking. I'll meet people outside. So this is all counselling, but it's done confidentially, it's done safe, but in their environment where people are comfortable to be able to share their experience. Another big part of the project is going to be an outreach service for homeless and disabled veterans, and that's going to be in the way a van. And I'm smiling because that's a part of the project that I'm proud of all my project, but this particular part is that I'm really excited about.
The best thing about it, as lots of the groups that around here, it's the banter. We have a laugh and a joke, because we're all either ex-veterans or wives of ex-military people. So we've got that common bond, that common vocabulary that we can all share with those experiences.
I'm proud of how far I've come, and I'm really proud of the team that I've got around me. We've worked hard personally and professionally to gain all the qualifications that we've got. But qualifications on paper are not, you know, we can all have them, can't we? But personal experience is what counts, I believe.
Their problems are not going to go away, but it takes their mind, focuses it on something else, so that their problems might not seem as bad.
Well, whilst I was still in the army, it was like an umbrella effect. You're under the big umbrella, the whole support sort of thing. So you're protected, and once you come out the umbrella, you have to fend for yourself. So this is like another umbrella sort of thing.
We've had a couple of guys in the kitchen who have been doing bits of cooking and things, and they've taken on board what I've been showing them how to cook, and then they've been going home and been trying to replicate the meals, and then they've been tagging me in on social media on what they're cooking at home in their own kitchen. Your phone goes on a Friday, Saturday night, wherever it is that they're doing, and they've made a meal, and they've sent me the picture of it. It's fantastic. It's really good.
And to me, it's how in the military, even if we're living in a hole in the ground, you have that bond, you have that fellowship, you have this, you look after each other, not because someone else has told you what to do, it's because you look after that guy because he's going to look after you, and it's as simple as that. And if you want to wake someone up 10 minutes before you start and give him a brew and a fag and make sure he's all right, then yeah, you want him to do exactly the same thing from you, and that's how you get through all the living in the hole and the bad bits and that.
Someone explains to me it's like a computer program. You're getting upgraded, so you're on 1.0, now I'm on 1.1, 1.2, and I'm on the Scott 2.1. Scott 2.1's doing good.
Who am I? I'm I've become an ambitious, self-confident, and kind of like Captain Scarlet, because I'm indestructible now.
That's why I call it the red dog, because it's not the black dog of depression, it's my red dog of PTSD. It used to be a bastard that nipped my ankles all the time and dragged me down, but now it's on a lead, it does what I tell it, and when I want to use it, I can use it in a creative way, because I actually owe the little bugger a lot. You know, I wouldn't be here without it, doing what I'm doing now, which is something I love.